Hey kids, I got your questions. John emailed me all the questions that you wrote last week on those index cards, and you've got some great questions. So John asked me to respond to a few of them. So let me start with this one. Did Jesus like Kool-Aid? Boy, I've looked through all my books here and I can't find any of these scholars who have written about whether or not Jesus liked Kool-Aid. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave you alone with that question. You're going to have to wrestle with that yourself. When you get to heaven, make a beeline for Jesus. He'll be the bright one, and then maybe you can find out if you like Kool-Aid or not. But a lot of you ask questions about how did God create this world and why did God create this world? And so those are the two questions that I want to talk about. How did God create this world? The Bible's a thick book, and maybe surprisingly, God doesn't spend a lot of time in the Bible teaching us about how He created this world. It just doesn't seem to be a subject that's really important to Him, that we know how He did it. For sure, Genesis chapter 1 would be the one passage where He really goes into any detail about how He created the world. And basically what it says is that God created the world by speaking it into existence. He spoke it into existence. God's word carried His power. Now, that may sound a little strange to us, but think of it this way. If we lived back in the days where there was a king, the king had all the power. And if the king gave an edict, say he said, Jojo goes to the dungeon, well then Jojo goes to the dungeon because there's nobody to challenge the king. And so if the king gives his word to something, he can say, let it be so, or let it be done as I have said, and it will be done because the king has the power. Well, God is the almighty king. There is no king greater than God. There's no one to trump or challenge God's power or God's word. And so when God gives His word to something, He can say, let it be done, or let it be so, and it will be so. And so when we look at Genesis 1, it reads exactly that way. God said, let there be light, and there was light, and it was so. God said, let's separate the waters from above and the waters from below and create sky. And it was so. God said, let us make the beasts of the field and the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. And it was so. God said, let us make man in our image, male and female. And it was so. So God's word carries power. He spoke the world into existence. So that's how God created it. But again, that's not the most important question, and God doesn't spend a lot of time trying to tell us how He created the world. The bigger question, the one that God's more concerned that we understand, is why. Why did God choose to create this world? Why did God choose, more specifically, to create us? So let me answer that question from the heart of a parent. My wife and I have two children. One of them is probably watching this right now, Sarah. And let me talk about Sarah. For the first 3 months of Sarah's life, she did nothing but communicate misery. In fact, we even wrote a song about Sarah. She's crying, she's sleeping, she's pooping and she's peeing. She's Sarah, Sarah Ann. For 3 months, I kid you not, she did nothing but communicate absolute misery. And it was tough. It was tough as her parents trying to console her when she was inconsolable, and being up in the middle of the night when she was wide awake. It was tough. So why did we as parents choose to have a child knowing that it was not going to be easy? Well, the reason... one of the reasons is because what happened right around 3.5 months for Sarah. For the first time, she did something that she had never done. She smiled. She giggled. And I cannot describe to you the incredible joy that brought me as a parent, as her father. To see my daughter happy, to see her full of joy, it brought me joy. And so if that's true about my relationship with my daughter, multiply that 1,000 times of how much joy you and I have the ability to bring God. He receives joy. The biblical word would be glory. He is glorified. He's joyful at seeing us happy, at seeing us obey Him and follow Him and love Him. It brings Him incredible amounts of joy, just like it does a parent to see their child doing well. And so why did God create us? Because He wants to have a relationship with us. He wants to love us. He wants us to love Him. And He created us because He is creative. You know, God is a creator. It's in His nature to create. And so, yeah, that's why He created us. He wants to be our God, and He wants us to be His people. So that's pretty cool. So that's it. Back to you. I'll close with allowing you to get a little glimpse of my bald spot. All right. See you, kids.